Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another episode of In Case You Missed It. Hope you're all doing well, maybe feeling a little bit better after last night, after that absolutely abysmal performance at Sheffield United. We're going to have to talk a little bit more about that game today, obviously because of how poor it was and some of Frank Lampard's comments after it and what it means for some of the players in Chelsea's squad, especially next season as well. Will they still be here next season? Also, the future of Zouma. Will he be sold this summer by Chelsea? And Hakim Ziyech, probably the best bit of news from yesterday regarding Chelsea. Hakim Ziyech is now at Cobham. He's in England and he's now officially a Chelsea player. So that's good news. So we're going to touch a little bit on that as well. But before we get into today's video, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, do me a favor, hit that like button if you're enjoying the content because it helps out the videos as well. Obviously, that performance last night, that result was absolutely demoralising, absolutely awful. My rational perspective on the game is on the channel now. I mean, something I actually didn't touch on a lot in my review last night was the fight, the hunger, determination, you know, the spirit of Chelsea. And usually I don't talk a lot about that stuff because, you know, I like to sort of look at maybe tactics, structure, other things. I think sometimes people can overestimate that side of the game, you know, and I think sometimes people really focus on that when sometimes it is down to tactics or mistakes or shape or whatever it is involved in the game. But definitely last night, Chelsea's desire, Chelsea's spirit and fight was not there. And that's the worst thing as a fan when you're experiencing a game like that. To be even like so early in the game, you can just tell Chelsea weren't going to get back into that game. There was no fight, hunger, spirit, just the basics of football. And that's really demoralising. And I think makes the defeat even worse than West Ham because, you know, West Ham, I think is more to do with, you know, individual mistakes on that day or defensive setup. Yesterday, I think all round there was a lack of positivity, a lack of energy, and that's the worst thing to take away from a game as a fan because you feel so despondent after it as well. Frank Lampard gave some very strong quotes after. Basically, just what he said, you know, he will learn a lot from that performance. And I think some people have taken that to mean, you know, why is he learning a lot about defensively? Chelsea have been poor all season. Why is he only learning that now? I personally think, based on what he said, I think what he means by learning a lot about that performance was certain players that he now knows he can't trust on a regular basis, players that will be leaving Stamford Bridge this summer. Some of the players who I think it was a defining game last night. I think I look at certain players. Kepa has been questioned. I don't think last night, but I think just generally Kepa, his future in doubt. Andreas Christensen, I think maybe out the door this summer. A really poor performance by him was taken off rightly at half time. Antonio Rudiger, another player who has not been at the required standard this season. Jorginho, I mean, if Frank Lampard is insistent on playing a holding midfielder and two number 8s in front of him, Jorginho just can't survive in that system. We saw it again last night. Maybe off the bench at certain times, but, you know, as a regular starter, Jorginho is just, he's not going to work in that system, so he could be off this summer as well. But just generally, I think that was a massive statement for me, and I think it was the last straw for certain players. We'll have to wait and see who stays and who goes, but I think it'd be very telling by the start of next season who's there and who's not and who plays the most and who doesn't. I think will tell you a lot about who Frank Lampard trusts and how much that game really defined sort of their careers at Chelsea, negatively mostly and maybe positively in others. I think some of the younger players will, of course, have to come again, have to have more chances at Chelsea, but some of those older players who should have been relied on, who should have been better last night, simply I think that may have been the end for their Chelsea careers, in my personal opinion. Now moving on, it relates to the game last night, a player who did play last night, and defensively Chelsea looking to improve in that area. Obviously this summer it has to be an area of importance now. Julien Laurens, a French journalist for ESPN, reporting that Zouma may be off this summer. For me, is an absolute shock, but this is what he said. Sources have told ESPN that Zouma's representatives have already put plans in place for a move this summer, with Zouma facing competition at Chelsea from Andreas Christensen, Antonio Rudiger and Fikayo Tomori. Chelsea boss Frank Lampard is also on the lookout for a new centre-back himself. Zouma has 3 years left on his Chelsea contract after he agreed to a 6-year deal in 2017 and would be available for around 30 million. In addition to Chelsea, Everton are also keen, and clubs in Spain have also registered an interest in him. Surprising to me because even last night Zouma was still trying to help Chelsea out, especially for that second goal. Christensen not in the right place and Zouma had to try and come across and nearly, you know, got ahead to it. I think, you know, defending has been awful this season, but I think most people probably agree that Zouma has probably been a positive within that, one of Chelsea's better defenders. I was just thinking about this, you know, I would have loved to have seen more of Zouma and Tomori this season because I still think that was probably our best centre-back partnership we've had, you know, going back to Autumn at the time. And unfortunately, because Frank changing it a lot week in, week out, players coming back from fitness, maybe a sense that Tomori needed a rest. Or I know, of course, Tomori has had injury problems, and that's maybe, of course, to find out. You can't really help that. If Tomori's out, you can't play him. But unfortunately, I think that's been a problem as well. And Kurt Zouma, for me, out of the defenders you could sell this summer, I just don't think Zouma is the one I'd sell. It's just, I think it's a bit unfortunate, to be honest. The only reason I think maybe is price, or maybe Zouma wants to leave himself. But when I look at who Chelsea are going to bring in, I mean, I don't think Chelsea are going to bring in like 2 or 3 centre-backs this summer. I just don't think it's realistic. I think Chelsea will go out and spend big, maybe on 1 centre-back. And I think Zouma could be the partner to that centre-back. I think Chelsea desperately lack a leader back there. Zouma isn't that leader, but Zouma, out of the rest of Chelsea's current centre-backs, it's unfair on Tomori because he hasn't played a lot recently, so it's hard to judge, but especially based on Christensen and Rudiger, he's better on both of them on performances at the moment, and rely on him and put him in front of all of them at the moment. And just in terms of defending, I think Zouma is much better than the other defenders in certain areas. And I think his passing as well is underrated by Chelsea fans when they look at his game. So it's a bit of a surprise to me. I think it'd be a shame to lose Kurt Zouma in front of other defenders, if I'm being honest, based on performance levels. But that may be the way it goes this summer. I'm not entirely sure. Please let me know your opinions on the future of Kurt Zouma. Who out of the other centre-backs do you think Chelsea should sell? Let me know in the comments below. And lastly, as I said, probably the only positive news came out of Chelsea yesterday was those photos that got released of Hakim Ziyech at Cobham for the first time, taking part in his first training session as a Chelsea player, just on his own, obviously, because the team was preparing for the game against Sheffield United. Great shots to see, great pictures to see. Hakim Ziyech gave some quotes as well. Very happy to be at Chelsea. I hope he wasn't watching the game last night, because maybe he'd be thinking to get on a flight back to Amsterdam to go back to Ajax. But it's a big thing to have Hakim Ziyech finally at Chelsea, and hopefully preparing now for next season, as well as hopefully we'll see Timo Werner after he comes back from holiday, hopefully in the Chelsea training kit at Cobham sooner rather than later. It's exciting, especially in games like last night, where you're looking for that extra bit of creativity, what Ziyech can potentially offer next season to Chelsea. Crossing wise, I mean, that was a thing yesterday. Chelsea were trying to get in from wide areas, trying to cross the ball, and I think with a player like Ziyech, Chelsea will have a better option next year. Of course, we know the quality of Hakim Ziyech with a cross from a dead ball situation. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait till the start of next season, or pre-season, whenever that takes place, to finally see Ziyech play for Chelsea. But I guess out of what was a very terrible day for Chelsea, this is one way of light that we can look forward to next season. But that is it for today's episode of In Case You Missed It. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.